I do feel like everybody on the staff really wants to help the students and has that empathy for their experience. Shared empathy is definitely a theme, a unifying theme. So I went to New Life Christian School, which is like a K through 12 private school. Um, and I just played a lot of sports because it wasn't like one of those like ritzy private schools. It was like more religious. So like if you could run around without falling over, then you played all the sports. So yeah, I just remember getting in trouble for talking in class. Yeah, just kind of growing up in a bubble, honestly. I didn't really realize how much Frederick had to offer until I left and then came back. And then I was like, because I think going to college, I was like, oh, a lot of young people I think feel this way. They're like, I have to get out of the place I grew up. It has nothing for me. And then I came back and I was like, oh, there's so much here. Like, this is such a great community. We all have our worldview, I guess, and I like that our worldviews aren't the same, and that's something you don't necessarily grow up knowing. It pushes you to be more flexible in your mind to interact with people who are different than you, and I liked that challenge of being able to see things from different perspectives. Like, I'd always been interested in other cultures, but I feel like it kind of started in college. And that I think is an interesting story because it's like a time when you're trying to figure out who you are, what you're going to do, what are my skills, are they relevant to what the world needs? I ended up doing biblical studies as my major, which didn't help because, like, what is that? People are always like, oh, what job is that? And I minored in English so that is a little bit more of like a job. I was like, oh, well, I've never taught English before. But she was like, oh, well, if you know English, then we can use you. And that was like something I'd been good at since I was like maybe 5 years old, 3 to 5, you know? And so I was like, that's really cool that this thing that I've always been good at is useful to people. Now, teaching is a skill for sure. It wasn't just something that I had. Like a lot of these refugees didn't have a choice to come to the US. You know, you just become a refugee and get sent to a country. And so it was just really, it felt really good to be able to share our cultures. And I learned a lot from them. It just made me feel useful. And I think that's how I feel when I teach. Like I'm helping somebody, offering them something that is useful to them. And it kind of costs me nothing to give it to them. At some point I got an email and I saw that they had a job opening and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to apply to work there. So I was the administrator, which means I kind of sat at the front desk and was first face and like welcomed people and just supported what we did in general. But now I'm the program coordinator, so that comes with a little more like volunteer support. I help onboard new volunteers, help with assessments. So that's when new students come in, we evaluate, you know, what level of English are you, so we can put you in the right class, give you the right books. And that's really fun, being able to meet the new students and get to know them. I think the goal is to empower people and empower the students. I have to remind myself the privilege I have in knowing English and not just like put that on my students. One way I found to do that is to just like try to be learning something new always so I can feel that like frustration. And also the excitement of like figuring it out and successfully doing this. And I can say to other people, like, you can do this. So, like, I need to make sure these people feel seen and heard. You know, our society really values like getting a job, having this tangible outcome. And that's not always someone's goal in learning a language either. So I think everybody in the literacy council teams working together to make sure the student succeeds for whatever that means for each student. You know, like language is so much more than the words we say. And so that's it's like this medium that we can use to connect with people, but it's not the only medium.